I think on a day that has just changed dramatically. I think the news that we heard today being announced by President Nelson Chamisa on the new direction for the party, it has been so energizing, and there's so much celebration going on everywhere across the country. But before we get into it, I'm just going to say welcome to all our listeners. This is Change Radio, and we are a digital radio, and our aim is to be the alternative voice in Zimbabwe. As you know, for those that are well versed with the Zimbabwe situation, is that the press and the media are muzzled and are not able to report on anything that does not align with the current regime. And so we are here to bridge that gap, to be able to report on what the main opposition political party is doing in the country. And so I am going to add on another speaker, Chennai, and we've got quite a few people that I've seen here that have watched the film, and we would be very delighted to see them. But I'm so delighted to be back again with Camilla Nielsson, the director of the President film, which is screening in London at the Bertha DocHouse, and it's been screening since the 14th of January. So I was there, but I'm not going to speak and share what happened. I'm going to give the chance to the others who were there to speak first, and then I can share. So without further ado, I'm going to first ask Camilla to greet the people, followed by Mambo Shoshe, and then Chennai, there's Barbara, and I can also see that Nyasha is here. So I am going to give you the speaker mic so that we can bring you in a bit later on to share your experiences. So over to you, Camilla.
Thank you, Patricia, and thank you for having me on this space tonight. And hello to the listeners, new and old. We're here tonight to discuss the documentary called President, which is screening, like Patricia said, in London at the moment. It had its premiere on January 14th with the attendance of Zimbabwean British actress Sandiva Newton. I wasn't there, unfortunately, because I had corona, but I heard it was a wonderful evening and it was a full house. It was sold out. And the good news I can share with you listeners tonight is that there's such a demand to watch this movie that the cinema has decided to extend the screenings until February 1st. So there's time for everyone to make it to London and see this documentary about the stolen election in 2018 and follow the events as they happened in front of our camera. Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you. And over to Mambo Shoshe to say hello to the people.
Yes, thank you, Patricia. It's an extraordinary day, and on an extraordinary day, extraordinary things happen. We have the new baby that has just arrived that President Chamisa delivered today. So it's a good thing that we are talking. We are here talking about his film, and I would like to apologize. You're seeing the few people that are here. It's because we have another Twitter space that is going on right now on the Citizens Coalition for Change Diaspora Affairs desk. It was an impromptu something. I didn't know that they were going to have it. I think because of the extraordinary events that happened today, they ended up coming up with something like that. But that being as it is or as it may, this is important. We need to talk about this film because it's also talking about the new. It's talking about what's going to happen, what may happen, and also what happened. So thank you so much, Camilla. Thank you, Patricia, for hosting this event.
Thank you so much. And I don't know if Barbara wanted to say hello, and as well as Chennai, and then we'll come back to Camilla so she can talk a little bit about the film. And then we want you to plug in Mambo Shoshe, about the CCC and, all the excitement that is happening around the world. And one of the things that I will share, because I can't contain the excitement, is that our Facebook pages have been inundated with new people trying to join as we speak. And we are picking up new followers on Twitter and on all of our social media platforms since the announcement of the CC name. So great changes that we are already seeing at the moment. So I'll come to you, Barbara.
Thank you so much, Pet, and also thanks to Camilla for coming to our space. We really appreciate that, Camilla. Pet, this coincidence of having these two great programs on the same day, like the name change and hosting Camilla, the director of the documentary President. It just came to my mind, Pet, to say, remember when Camilla was here last time, we were asking her, so what do you think is the way forward? And she told us that she's not a politician. The way forward should come from the people. And I remember very well Comrade Mtasa saying this film can be used as an advocacy and lobbying tool. And now with this baby that has just been born, now we can start from there. This is the way forward, Pet. We needed something that is vibrant. We needed something that is not tainted, something that is new, in order for us to go forward, to take it from where Camilla left in this film. I'll talk about the film later. You had said I should just greet the viewers and listeners. This is my greeting to our viewers. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all viewers and listeners. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Did you want to say hello as well, Chennai, before we go back to Camilla?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Yes, a great, great day indeed. I was actually so excited that I gave myself a headache. I had to go and sleep for an hour. I was too excited. I overdid it. But yeah, I'm here. Really good to be here with Camilla and Chief Shoshe and Barbara and yourself, Patricia. I'm looking forward to this discussion.
Thank you very much for that, Chennai. So we're just going to come back to you, Camilla, to just talk us through about the motivation for the film, and then we can again go back to Mambo Shoshe to hear a little bit about the excitement that we are all still excited about with the new name.
Thank you, Patricia. Well, maybe I should give a bit of background to how President was made. It's a documentary film that I filmed with my camera person, Henrik Ibsen. The both of us had been in Zimbabwe in 2010 until 2013, where we followed the making of and the writing of Zimbabwe's new constitution. Basically, we were filming inside the COPAC Select.
Sorry. Hi, Camilla. Can you unmute? I think something went wrong there. I saw everyone was muted. Thank you.
Maybe I was not unmuted. Can you hear me now, Patricia?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so the story of President actually has some context that I think the listeners should know, which is that in 2010 until 2013, I was in Zimbabwe filming and documenting the making of Zimbabwe's new constitution. That footage became the documentary Democrats, which some of you may have seen or heard of. That film was banned by Mugabe and his censorship board back in 2015. It was banned as not suitable for showing to the public, which is quite a harsh category for banning. It's usually the kind of banning that is given to pornographic materials and the like. So some of the lawyers I met while filming the documentary Democrats suggested that we tested and challenged that ban in the Zimbabwean courts so that we were able to screen the film in the country where it mattered most. That challenge took us 3 years, and finally, in January of 2018, a courageous court in the courageous judge in the High Court unfreed or unbanned the movie and freed the film for us to distribute. And it was in connection with that court case that I flew back to Harare after 3 years of having been blacklisted, that we went out for a celebration dinner in Harare to celebrate that Democrats could finally be screened in Zimbabwe. And it was during that dinner that it was proposed to me that I should come back and make another documentary film about the upcoming election in 2018. So that's a bit of backstory and context about how I came to Zimbabwe and why I made these two films. The film that is screening in London now, called President, has been shortlisted for an Oscar. So we're very excited about that. And it basically follows Nelson Chamisa's campaign from he was campaigning in the rural areas until the Constitutional Court gave the final ruling and handed the electoral victory to President Emerson Mnangagwa. So it's the whole story that's embodied in that film. And as you may know, many of us disagreed with the ruling that Mnangagwa was the legitimate winner of the election. And that's basically the story that I'm telling in this documentary film. Thank you, Patricia.
Thank you very much. And I think having watched the film is quite powerful. It's one in which people go away to reflect and to rethink how they can become a part of the journey. And what's been quite interesting is that having posted it on LinkedIn, people have gone on to watch, and there's more excitement of people reaching out and saying they'd like to go and watch it because I think it's quite compelling. Having watched the trailer, people feel that they should go and see or hear the whole story, and people some end up quite shocked because the mainstream media doesn't always report events as they happen. They pick and choose what they want. And someone on LinkedIn was talking about the fact that it is the independent film producers that produce the type of films such as The President, that tell about the reality and the real challenges that people face when fighting for democracy or just fighting for justice and equality in general. So if I can come back to you again, Mambo Shosho, if you've got any comments to make, or if you want to just plug in something about the CCC.
Yes,
I think
if
you're breaking up a little bit.
am I? Oh, yeah. The film does talk about the people of Zimbabwe, the passion that the people of Zimbabwe, have about their country, about their freedom, and that very same passion is, what we saw today. It is the passion that the people of Zimbabwe have that resulted in the new name, in the new baby that we received today. The people of Zimbabwe spoke as they were speaking during elections, expressing themselves. They spoke earlier last year, this year, encouraging the leadership of the party, to come up with an alternative name, to come up with another name. And the leadership of the party is a listening leadership. President Chamisa is a listening president. He listened, he embraced people's ideas, and that's what the people of Zimbabwe are looking for. They are looking for a leadership that listens. They are looking for a leader, a president that listens to them. We've heard a lot about some leaders saying the voice of the people is the voice of God. The voice of God is the voice of the people. And, on the contrary, they don't listen to the voice of the people, which also means they're not listening to the voice of God. Here we've seen a president a leader who listens to the people. The people demanded that there be a new name. We move away from the old and we start the new. And today we started the new. So I'm just trying to draw parallels here. That it is the same people that you are seeing in the film. If you go and watch that film, one of the things that is going to touch you, it is how the people of Zimbabwe, how they'll be expressing themselves. You know, you listen to that guy who'll be talking to, you know, addressing President Chamisa. You know, he was not joking. He was, President Chamisa, you are our hope. You are the hope of the people. Please don't let us down. You know, that's, I don't know how all those, how your team, Camilla, managed to capture, you know, all those, you know, real life incidences, you know, and that's one of the good things about this film. It captures the people of Zimbabwe. It captures the people speaking, the old people in the rural areas, some in you know in towns and cities, just talking. It wasn't anyone you know of Camilla's team that was speaking, or Camilla herself narrating. In most of the documentaries that you watch, you hear someone narrating in their own voice, you know, coming in, maybe chipping in with their own ideas and their own versions of the events. But that's not what we are seeing here. We are seeing the people speaking for themselves, and the passion just drives you. And I'm seeing the same passion today on social media. I was telling people that if social media doesn't break down today, if Facebook or WhatsApp or Twitter doesn't break down today, I don't know when it will break down, because it's you know, the passion is just flowing. People are excited. People are happy, and you know, I love it, and I think this was a master stroke. President Chamisa, you know, found a strategic time, a strategic day to announce this, especially now that we are going into the by-elections. This is something that we needed. You know, the drive, the by-elections will drive this name. You know, Zimbabweans work with events. When there's something that is happening, they respond with their hearts. You know, I always say that if you want to do something, watch the people's emotions where they are, and then you can introduce something. So I think the leadership of the party did excellently well, because they brought this big event when there's also another big event, which is the by-elections that is coming through. So I think it's going to work well for us. And before I step down, I want to again, you know, encourage people to go and watch this film. Uh, yeah, we are here, and I know that there are other people that are listening on Change Radio. So if you're there out there, you're listening, and you have not watched this movie, please make plans to go and watch it. Thank you.
So thank you very much for that. So if I can come to you, Chennai, because I know that you've been involved behind the scenes. If you can just talk us through, your own experiences.
I think what did I want to say? So in terms of my involvement, Patricia, has really just been one of support. Like, you cannot be passionate about change for Zimbabwe and not really encourage people to go and watch. Like, I have gone past encouraging. Now I'm actually appealing. Like, this is an appeal, because we cannot talk about things that we don't know. And what Camilla enables us to do by having this film, The President, is we come into a position of knowledge. We can now talk about what we know, you know. We can now even address the propaganda. We can talk about what happened in the Constitutional Court. We can talk about what happened on the 1st of August 2018. We can talk about what happened on the 30th of July 2018, and what happened before that, with confidence, because we now know for a fact, you know, because the camera does not lie, it recorded things as they evolved. So it's so important that going into the next election, that as many of us are on the same page, especially the diaspora community. The diaspora community in Zimbabwe has got one very, very, very important role, and that is one of information dissemination. People in Zimbabwe, especially when we were looking at the elections, people in the diaspora actually had information before the people on the ground in Zimbabwe. Because as we know, access to things like the internet is not just freely available like we have over here in the diaspora. So we are already given that responsibility of information disseminators. So it's important that we are on the right page, that we understand these things, so we can speak with authority and speak with knowledge to the people on the ground to say, no, this is what happened here. Because I'm telling you that there are people who still have questions about the V11 debates. There are people that still have questions about 1 August 2018, because we know the propaganda, the ZANU-PF propaganda was that it was the MDC Alliance youth that started the clash, therefore the soldiers were now retaliating, which is an absolute nonsense. And when you go to watch the film, you will be able to draw the correct conclusions by being given the opportunity to see for yourself what happened, you know. So I'm really, really appealing. It's also important for the longevity of the film, for the film to reach the heights it's supposed to reach, that we all play our part in going to watch it, in sharing, encouraging others to do the same. We're quite fortunate that is being shown at the Curzon Cinema, which are quite cheap in comparison to other cinema places. So, you know, I think it's less than £10 to for a ticket to watch. And where it is very central in London. Even if you're coming, let's say you are coming from Luton, or you're coming from near, relatively nearby from the Midlands, you get to Euston and it's about a 10-15 minute walk to get there. So it's not even that you have to get, you know, it's complicated to get to. But I really, really just impress it upon the people that are listening now, that when you come off this, even if you're not in London, there will be people that you know that live in London. Please encourage them. Let us share the real, the correct version of events. Even for the memory, you know, we haven't really even done anything much for the people that were killed on the 1st of August 2018. And part of that is people don't know. They don't know how things evolved. They may have heard about it, but their knowledge is not at a place where they can actually feel impassioned to do something about it. And this film will enable that. So really, really please, you know, this I've moved from being an encourager to actually saying this is quintessential. It's an appeal that we get as many people in this coming week that haven't watched it to go and watch it. Let us promote it on our timelines. Let us promote it, wherever, on Facebook, on our WhatsApp groups, so that people go out to watch in this last week of it being shown. You know, I really believe that in decades from now, when people are looking back at the history of Zimbabwe, that this will be one of those pinnacles. It will be one of those very, very important part of our story, the what happened in 2018, and the fact that we were privileged and fortunate enough to have somebody go behind the camera and record it as it happened, not as a drama. Because you know, some of these dictatorships, like let's say Idi Amin, you know, people have had to reenact from stories what happened. And you know, there was never you don't get a lot of times where there was that real live footage of what was happening behind the scenes. And this is just that. It's pure gold, you know, to be able to have access to real live information of what transpired in 2018. So I really, really appeal for as many of us as possible, that, you know, every time, even if I've watched it more than once, every time I watch it, I have a new favorite scene, or I go in and I think, okay, this time I want to focus on different characters, even like Douglas Monzora. Sometimes when I've watched it, I've just followed him in the film just to see, you know, really draw my own conclusions as to which side of the net he was batting for. during that time as well, you know. So there's just so much to learn and watch, and it's interesting, it's gripping, you will not be bored, you know. It's very, very important. I think I'll end there, Patricia.
Thank you so much for that, Chena. And I think as I was listening to you, I was thinking about the historical context of this film is that in the future, 50 years from now, people will sit down and watch it and understand the cost of fighting for freedom, because this is what it's about. It's the cost that when people are fighting for justice, fighting for change, fighting for freedom, there's often loss of life, and a lot of the people at the forefront of the fight are doing this from, I think it's sacrificial to some extent, because they're not doing it for themselves, they are doing it for the many, for the good of the country. They are doing it for that mom that is sitting on the side road, that is selling tomatoes to earn $1 a day, and then save on that $1 to be able to pay school fees and to be able to have money for medical fees should the family fall ill, and so many things, so that it just brings that reality into perspective. But I'm just going to come back to Camilla again and just to ask you to share more. And then maybe we'll ask one of the people that attended to give us their perspective and their feedback.
Thank you, Patricia. Well, maybe I should comment on how the film was made, because as Chennai was saying, there's no interviews, there are no talking heads. I don't appear in the movie, that's for sure. It's filmed in a way that we call observational, which I think, as a non-Zimbabwean, is the most fair way of me to tell a Zimbabwean story. And the way that works is that I film basically everything that happens for about 3.5 months. And I then come back to the editing room and have all the material translated. And from that material of, I think, about 300 hours of footage, we then edit and compile the essence of the story, which is the 115-minute version that is now playing at DocHouse in London. And that work is really about crystallizing the story. I mean, there were lots of beautiful things that happened around the election that we couldn't put into the film. There were lots of scenes that I would have liked to show the Zimbabwean people that also happened. But very few people have the opportunity to watch a 3 or a 4 hour movie. So our job is to edit and compose and construct the story in the way that is fair and, I think, balanced, in terms of how I saw the election. And I'm sure there will be different perspectives on whether, Edie Mnangagwa won the election free and fairly. And like Patricia said, I'm trying to stay non-political and not interfere with inter-party politics in Zimbabwe. So the story is merely a crystallization of how the events happened and unfolded in front of our camera. Another thing I wanted to comment on is about what Chennai said about the victims of August 1st, because as many of you know, when the election results was delayed by the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, SEC, there was concerns that this was a repeat of former elections where rigging takes place behind the scenes, and then a fictitious election result is then announced. And the day of August 1st, we, the crew, were going to the Rainbow Towers Hotel, or the HICC, as it is also known, to film a press conference with 2 international observer teams. Both the EU observers and the US observers had notified that they would give a press conference, also raising their concern about the delay in announcing the official results. And when we drove through the gate to the hotel, there was a small group of about 20 to 30 young, mainly opposition supporters, who were singing to the observers as their cars drove through the gate, please protect our vote, please protect our vote. It was a very non-violent event, and and we filmed the protesters, and then we went in to film the press conference at the hotel, which took about an hour. When we came out from the press conference, more people had gathered outside the gate, and um, that's when somebody put fire to a flag, I think it was, outside the gate. Some of the supporters. It was not in any way a threat to the 50 plus riot police who had gathered on the other side of the gate. And I think the proper way for the police to have responded to that fire and to the protesters would have been to open the gate, walk out, and put out the fire with their boots. It could easily have been uh, um, sort of I mean, the escalation of violence was completely unnecessary. But instead, they drove the water cannons towards the gate and watered down the whole street and all the protesters, who then threw some rocks back on the riot police in their defense. And then is when all hell broke loose and the tear gas was popped. There was a whole commotion in front of the gate, and suddenly we heard military helicopters above our heads, and tanks took to the streets, and soldiers came out and shot live ammunition, killing 6 people. Um, some of these people, or most of these people, were not even part of the demonstration. They were just ordinary Zimbabweans who were in the wrong place at the wrong time. And in the film, you'll see footage of some of these Zimbabweans leaving their offices or leaving their stalls, or some street vendors even were running away from the live bullets with their arms over their heads, and their back to the military, who then shot them in cold blood from the back. So I know there's been a lot of discussion about how this situation escalated and how it came to be such a violent day on August 1st. And I think the important thing to mention here is that there was an independent commission, the Mudlander Commission, who looked through the evidence of the events of August 1st, and they did conclude that both the police and the military used unnecessary force. And I think Mnangagwa has not yet responded to this report made by the commission, and I think none of the 6 people who were killed and their families have received any sort of compensation, or even any kind of honorable or dignified way of remembering them. So besides the election and the opposition's fight for a democratic struggle, which we show in the film, is also very important for us to highlight on the injustice that happened to those 6 people who were killed on the streets of Harare on August 1st. Back to you, Patricia.
Thank you very much for that, Camilla. Mambo Shoshe and Babi, do you want to come in, Leader Babs?
Yes, Pat. Thank you so much. Maybe what I can say after watching the film, Pat, I was so, you know, I was so happy. At the same time, I was emotional. I even shed some tears because in 2018, during this time, I was in Zimbabwe, but I was in Bulawayo. I saw some scenes that I didn't even know that they happened. I only saw them in that film, and the most thing that caught my eyes is the commitment of the leadership of the then MDC, which is now the Citizens Coalition. You know, even the court case. People were saying MTC didn't prepare, they did not have evidence, they just went to court, they had no polling officers, they all sorts of things they were said, but that film, it showed me a lot, that it a lot of evidence was revealed through that film. The polling agents that were harassed, that were victimized, I saw them being interviewed, and they were bold enough to tell it as it is, what happened to them, why they left their polling station. And also the issue of the presser that was done, the ZEC presser where ZANU PF walked out, and it was clear that ZANU PF was content whilst the other parties were crying that the level, the ground was not level. ZANU PF was content because they were controlling ZEC. It showed me the what the that ZEC was not independent. You know, every time when we say ZEC is not independent, some people will say we are lying, we are telling lies. But if you watch that film, you will see that ZEC was not independent because people kept on asking for reforms, and of which ZEC did not even take heed of. So it's a very, very, very powerful film. I saw the commitment of President Chamisa. People were not sleeping. People were not sleeping. The staff at Harvest House, they were not sleeping. Everyone. I just want to commend the leadership of the MDC Alliance. By then it was MDC Alliance. They did their best, of which I'm sure in 2023, if they cover all the gaps that were there, I know 2023 there's gonna be change in Zimbabwe. The film is very, very powerful. Thanks to Camilla. Even the event, the 1st August shootings, the camera, what you call the photographers, they pictured some scenes that they were clear how they were shot. When some pictures were coming in the public, they were just in, they were just pictures that way. But when you watch the film, you even see, or maybe it's because it's a big screen. I don't know, pet, but I just, I was just shivering in the. I was emotional to say, how could soldiers kill people like this? Even the journalists, their lives were in danger. What kind of a government that shoots at journalists? What kind of a government is that? We know that when journalists are doing their job, even in a war zone, journalists are not to be shot or are not to be harassed because they'll be doing their job. So, I just urge people that have not seen this film to go and see it, and then they'll appreciate that people back home, they are really, really trying to do their best to bring change. And it's only up to us in the diaspora to compliment them in bringing the total change to Zimbabwe. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And I think, when you were speaking, something that Chennai talked about, people not knowing the truth, and that, this film does provide that truth, because you were in Zimbabwe, but you didn't see the full picture. You didn't really know what was going on. And there are millions of Zimbabweans that read a press that was more aligned to the regime, and that probably reported favorably, and cast the blame on the opposition, when we all know that they were not to blame, that a paranoid regime that is afraid of losing control, that wants to cling on to power, ordered soldiers to go and gun down innocent citizens that were going about their business. And to date, as already been alluded here, there's been no justice. No one has been arrested. No one has been held accountable. And the Mudlander Commission was a phase as far as I'm concerned, because it didn't bring out any truth. Everything was just cast under the carpet. And I think the biggest issue that we have in Zimbabwe is that we know that all institutions are captured by the state, and that they collude with the state to ensure that they remain in power. But I'm just going to ask Nyasha, who attended, whether she has any reflections to share, and also any questions that she might want to ask. Go ahead, Nyasha.
Hi everyone. Hi Camilla. Again, thank you for I don't know, for your vision behind this film. It really was such an intimate and compelling film into the struggle for democracy within Zimbabwe. I mean, I walked away from it feeling really emotional, having learned something new myself. I mean, even though I was born in Zimbabwe, I grew up in the UK, so there's sometimes a disconnect to what's happening back home, and to just see that on film and see how raw it was just it really stayed with me and resonated with me. I wasn't largely shocked by the level of corruption, or the level of fraudulent activity or the abuse that ZANU-PF have in place, but I was more taken aback by this sort of message of hope that resounded throughout the film. Like, even through all of that oppression, people of Zimbabwe have hope, and it kind of shone through a lot through that film, which really surprised me, because I've never known that. I've seen that before, especially when people are going through such struggles. And I just wanted to know from you, what was the most surprising thing about filming this? Yeah.
Well, I think for me, still to this day, the most surprising thing was the events of August 1st, because, like I said, there was no reason for this to escalate the way it did. There was no reason for shooting live ammunition. There was no reason for 6 people to die on the streets of Harare that day. And I think this was one of the first elections in a long time, I think more than 2 decades, that international election observers were allowed to come to Zimbabwe and observe the election. I think former President Robert Mugabe had prohibited international observers to come to Zimbabwe during presidential elections. And so there was a lot of excitement, I felt, from Zimbabwean people on the ground, that there was election teams from about 40 different nations coming in, and their job was to make sure that this election was run in a free and fair manner. And so when the military took to the street and used brutal force and violence the way they did against election observers, I was rather surprised that they did that in front of rolling cameras. I mean, we were not the only camera that was rolling as these events took place. I think there were news crews from the BBC and Al Jazeera and CNN, and basically cameras from all the major news outlets were on the streets, because we all just came out of the International Observer press conference when this dramatic situation evolved. And so for Mnangagwa to have taken power through a military coup, and then holding presidential elections 6 or 7 months after, I would think that his aim was to legitimize himself as the right president of Zimbabwe. And what we saw on the street with tanks and guns and live ammunition, for me, was very much reminiscent of the former regime. And I was surprised, I guess, that the veneer of his new dispensation sort of slipped that day, and that it was the fact that it was slipping in front of cameras. Like Patricia was saying, basically international media was fired at, and we were hiding behind cars and trees and whatever was available to provide some shield and some cover. And the brutality and the arrogance with which that was performed, and also later on the silence on who gave that order. I mean, who ordered the military to the street on that day? I don't think anyone has taken any sort of responsibility for that. And I think it's surprising, as a member of the international community, that nobody has demanded justice. who gave that order, and how can Zimbabwe be looked at from an international community as a new dispensation or as a true democracy with that kind of brutal behavior against innocent civilians. So I think there's a lot to be said about what happened on that day still, and I hope that the victims and their families will get some justice. But how the city of Harare transformed from a recently, I mean, demonstration which did turn violent, and it is true that there was anger with the supporters of the opposition. There was rocks and stones thrown at the riot police, but for that to escalate into what looked more like a war zone in less than half an hour surprised me very much. Thank you, Patricia. Back to you.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I just have one more question. I don't know who the best person to answer this question is, but another observation that I made was watching the film was there was more men than women on screen, especially as part of the leadership under Chamisa. And I was just wondering, how can women participate more in politics and get involved? I don't know who the best person to answer that question is, but.
Thank you very much. We've got here Barbara, who is the spokesperson for the Assembly of Women, and I'm sure that she can respond to that question around gender equality and women participating in politics, particularly at senior leadership.
Okay, thank you so much, Kate. I'm not sure where the listener is saying there were no women, because if you look at the crew that was working at Harvest House, the person that was in charge with all that data collection and everything was Bina, and she's a woman. She's the one who was in charge of collecting all that information. I think Camilla knows here. And also in the leadership, we had people like Wanamai Kore. It's like people were in their stations where they voted for. People were protecting their votes. Like myself, I was the chief election agent of Nelson Chamisa in Anketa constituency. That's where I was commanding from. So I was there until I think I spent 2 nights without sleeping, waiting for the whole process to end, because from the constituency, I am the one who was in charge with the votes up to the command center, where Comrade Shoko took over. So we were scattered all over because we were protecting the vote. And those that were in Harare were the people that were voting in Harare, that had constituencies that were in Harare, especially in the city center. So because you only vote where you registered. I don't know whether I'm clear. Otherwise, the leadership were scattered all over the country. People were allocated duties where they were voting from.
Well, maybe I can add to Barbara's comment, because I do understand the question from when you watch the movie. There is a disproportionate number of men to women in the film. And maybe you'll remember that in the beginning of the film, there's a scene where Chamisa has gone to a university to take some feedback from some young Zimbabwean students. And there's a young student, female student, who stands up and actually points out to Chamisa and says, the reason why you see so few women here today is because we are afraid. And I think she's addressing the fact that um, um, joining the political game as a woman in Zimbabwe does have certain risks, and we only need to think about the tragedy of what happened to the trio, to Joanna, Cecilia, and Netsai, who were abducted and tortured and left for dead behind a supermarket, and who is now undergoing I don't know. I think it's for 2 years they've been going through a trial, um, uh, accusing them of having staged their own abduction to shame the regime. So I think it's a politics is a game for the brave. There are a lot of women, I should say, and I agree with Barbara from what I've seen just traveling with the teams around the country, in Bulawayo, in all the 10 provinces. There are a large number of women who bravely do join the democratic struggle and is on the front line of the battle, but maybe some of them are too scared to be on camera, or to take leading positions in terms of fearing for their life, like that the young female student said in the beginning of the film. Thank you.
And
Thank you, Camilla.
also, if I may add, yeah, the point that you've just raised, the point of fear. You know, even here in the diaspora, how many women are active in politics where there are no, there are no, there's no one who is harassing, who harasses us. We are free. We've got freedom of speech. We've got, but how many people are in the forefront? How many women? Even right now, if you look at most women that are vocal on Twitter, Facebook, on social media, they use ghost. They don't want to reveal themselves. Why? Because they are scared. If people in the women in the diaspora are scared to reveal their identity, how about women who are on the ground?
Thank you. Thank you so much for all of those comments. I think Chennai, you had your hand up, and then we'll come to Mambo Shosho, and then I think we'll close in the next 5 minutes or so. Thank you.
Yeah, just a quick one. I think that's a very useful observation from Nyasha. And I agree with everything Camilla and Barbara have said. What I would also add to that is what we see in August, for July's 2018 election, is that President Nelson Chamisa had also just been in office, I think, for 6 months or so. So much of the structure that was existing then was very much inherited as well. So that is also another spanner in the works. And what we see in after the first Congress to date is a lot of new positions, a lot of positions that are now being given to female politicians within the party. So we have even a lot of positions. I think, Barbara, you would support me on this. In terms of the National Executive Committee, we now have quite a lot more of those positions being taken up by women. But also, you also raise an important point of how can I support? And I think if you definitely get in touch with either myself or with Barbara or with Patricia, then we can by all means signpost you to the nearest branch to where you are based. And we'd be happy to have more hands on deck. And we can start there. There are other causes that we continue to need people to lobby for, especially, for example, the issue that Camilla was talking about of the MTC trio. Their trial is still ongoing after the horrendous events that led to the abduction and rape and torture. They are now on trial, which is just ridiculous. So there's a lot to be done. We have seen that the regime does offer a heavy hand on women, especially that get involved in politics. I mean, if you follow through, for example, the legislator, Honorable Joanna Mamombe, from the time she came into office as an MP, I think she has been arrested. I don't know how many times, at one time, even being tried for treason. So they do um, try and really deal a heavy hand on women that are participating in opposition politics. So, like Barbara said, the more of us there are to stand one for another, then the less their impact, the less the negative impact of the regime is felt by those that are being active on the ground. And when that happens, you get more participation because they feel supported. So it's a very useful observation, I think, and it's one that we should continue to call out at every stage of our journey towards freedom and beyond. We do want more women active in politics, and we must always evaluate ourselves to see where are we up to now. What can we do better? So thank you for that observation.
Thank you so much, Chennai and everyone. So I'm going to come to you, Mambo Shoshe, if you have any lasting closing comments that you need to make before we go to Camilla.
Okay, yeah, and just to add on to what you have said about the women participation in politics in Zimbabwe, I think it's important to note that as a party we have a resolution, a 50-50 resolution, where we should have 50% women, 50% men in our executive. And ever since President Chamisa came to the presidents of the party, he has tried to bring up as many women as possible. But yes, we must admit that that target has not been met. But we are working towards it. But thank you so much for pointing that out. You know, it's very important. And going back to the film, and in particular the August 1 incident, as I close, I just wanna tell someone here who is listening, either here or on Change Radio, that if you haven't watched this movie, you need to go and watch it, because there's something funny, that the people that are watching now are actually seeing more than some of the people that were on the ground. I saw that for myself, because I was in Zimbabwe at that time. I'm one of those few people that flew to Zimbabwe to register to vote, and 4 months later, I flew back to cast my vote. So I was in Harare, driving from Jameson Hotel where I was staying, and I was trying to go to our former Vice President Mudzuri's restaurant, that is over the headquarters where the results were being counted. So if you'll be in Samora Machel, and then you turn left into Rotten Row so that you can go to the other side. So when we're driving towards near the HICC, one guy was running, and he was wearing our former red regalia, and he just saw us. I was also wearing my red cap and my red shirt. So I think that's what easily drew him to our track. And he said, Madara, there's danger there. You can't go there. Can I jump into your truck? And he just jumped to the back of our truck, and we sensed it. Also, we sensed the danger, because we saw people that were running, some that were throwing stones, and then there were soldiers that were in pursuit at their back. And we made a quick U-turn. Cowards. Some of us are just activists that do a lot of work behind the keyboards. So we quickly turned and sped back towards Samora Machel Avenue, and then we went via the near the showground, and then we went to the restaurant where I was supposed to meet some journalists there. We're supposed to have lunch there. So when we got there, that's when we started hearing, gunfire, and we were shocked. What's going on? And then the other guys that came in after that were also running. They were the ones that told us that people have actually been killed. So I didn't see all that. I only got to see all that part. When people were actually killed, those soldiers now firing live bullets, into the crowd. I only got to see that in the movie. So if you haven't watched it, even if you were there in Zimbabwe, there are parts in that film, that you didn't see, that you didn't even know, happened or existed. So I still encourage you to go and watch it. And if you are not in Zimbabwe, this is a good chance, a good opportunity for you to go and see vividly, the ruthlessness of this regime. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. So any lasting comments from Barbara and Chennai before I go to Camilla to close us out?
Please, please, please go and watch. It's not a thing that, it's not a luxury item. It's an essential item. Go and watch. Get your friends to go and watch. It's really, really, really important for the democratic discourse of Zimbabwe that we get as many people as possible to watch the film. Thank you.
Thank you. And Barbara?
Yes, thank you so much, Pete. I also want to urge people to say, if you watch this film, you'll never be the same. If you watch this film and you were that kind of a person who was not serious about the struggle, you will definitely join the struggle. It will motivate you to join the struggle. And it will also motivate you to do something towards bringing change that we so desire in Zimbabwe. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And back to you, Camilla, to just say your closing remarks and also just to share the new date for when it's now finishing, because it's not finishing this Thursday. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Patricia. Yeah, it's true. We got the good news today that the run at the DocHouse Cinema will be extended to February 3rd. There's I think still some viewing dates up on their website. I think they will show the extension by tomorrow, but it's possible to buy tickets, I think, now for the next 3 or 4 days, and then they'll add extra days, so you can still watch it until the 3rd of February, which is exciting. And also, I just wanted to thank everybody who listened in and who gave their contributions to for me to hear as the filmmaker how you saw the film, and how you experienced going to DocHouse. It's very humbling and heartwarming to hear you talk about this, and I just wanted to thank everybody who took the effort and the time to share their experience and come on this program tonight. So thank you for that, and thank you to you, Patricia, for hosting. It's been wonderful to be here, and congratulations on the new party name. I think it was a wonderful metaphor to say that a new baby had been born today. So I feel very privileged and honored to be on a show on this important day in the Zimbabwe democracy struggle. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Camilla. And I think Mambo Shoshe did say to me earlier that, we do need to go ahead. I think we suspected that there might be a lot of celebrations. So he was actually on another space and I was pulling him out of that space. So there's quite a few spaces that are going on right now, people celebrating this new baby that's been born. And with this new baby, it needs looking after. Babies need to be raised. They need support. They need care. They need all of those things that would enable them to grow. Hence why we have this call out to everybody on here to say, please, if you live in London or even outside of London, try and make an effort to go and see the president. It will open your eyes to what the fight for democracy looks like, but also does highlight all of those members and leaders that are in the war zone, because this is what is happening in Zimbabwe at the moment. It's a war. There's a war going on for freedom, to enable every Zimbabwean to have access to the things that we take for granted here in the Western world. So, things like electricity, things like free education. If you have children, they have a choice of going to university or not. They may apply for the grant, but there is a grant, there is a loan that they can access. People can have businesses, they can apply for funding to start a business. You have the right to speak out, you can go out and demonstrate, and those are not things that happen easily in Zimbabwe. And the Citizens Coalition for Change, I think that name just captures the mood for me. It's us citizens that need to unite, that need to come together in order to bring about the change that we want to see. The change is not Nelson Chamisa. He is not the one individual that is going to bring this, but he is looking to us and has invited us to come on board as he leads this new party going forward. So thank you everyone for coming. Thank you to Nyasha. Thank you to Chennai. Thank you to Barbara for co-hosting with me. Thank you to Mambo Shoshe. Thank you to Camilla for coming back. We are coming back again to another space because, today was quite reduced in numbers, but we are coming back again, and we will have Camilla, and hopefully we will also have the producer with us on the next space. So thank you. Have a good evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. And I'm going to play us out with a song. Good night and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Pat.
So if the song can come on. So thank you. Wherever you are in the world. And I'm going to play us out with the song Good Night in Dubai. Thank you. So if the song can come